At the holiday party, my manager toasted. And let's thank Maya, who worked 60 hours a week, even when her mom died. Everyone laughed. I stood up and said, "Thank you for reminding me what this job really means." Then I pulled the project file from my bag and dropped it in the punch bowl. The investors arrived at 7 p.m. I was already gone. I've never told a story to anyone outside my closest friends. And even they don't know the full version. It still makes my hands shake when I think about it. Not because I regret it, but because it showed me who I really was and who they really were. I was working at a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago. I won't name it, but if you've worked in tech long enough, you've probably heard of it. It wasn't some flashy startup with ping-pong tables and bean bags. It was just a place that prided itself on hustle and grit and owning your role. We were expected to do a lot with very little. And I did. I was in project coordination senior level. I managed timelines, kept launches on track, juggled 5 departments at once, and smoothed over messes that higher-ups pretended didn't exist. My manager, Alec, was the kind of guy who used words like optics and bandwidth in casual conversation. He dressed well, always smiled, always gave those fake compliments that felt like they were copied and pasted. At first, I thought he liked my work. Later, I realized he liked the results, not the effort. He never asked how I was doing, only if the timeline was on track. Last fall, my mom got sick. She was 64. She'd been a schoolteacher her whole life, then retired and moved into a small condo not far from me. We used to get dinner every Sunday. She had this loud laugh that embarrassed me in public, but now I'd give anything to hear it again. She called me one night in early October and said she hadn't been feeling right. Some stomach issues. Tired all the time. I told her to see a doctor. 2 weeks later, we were in an oncology unit, and a man with kind eyes and a quiet voice told us it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. There were no good options. Just let's make her comfortable and maybe we can slow it down. I wanted to quit right then and there. But I didn't. I emailed Alec that night and told him I'd need some flexibility. Maybe I could work some days remotely, take calls from the hospital. He replied 4 hours later with totally understand. Do what you need to do as long as deadlines stay on track. And that was it. So I kept working. I worked from the chemo unit, sometimes using hospital Wi-Fi that cut out every 10 minutes. I muted my mic, so she wouldn't hear me cry during meetings. I took calls in the hallway while nurses updated her charts. I filled out spreadsheets at 2 a.m. while she slept beside me in a chair. I was terrified and exhausted, but I kept going. When hospice finally came, I was still emailing vendors and updating budgets. I didn't ask for time off. I didn't want to seem like I couldn't handle it. I wanted to be the person Alec could count on, the person who always delivered. She died on a Sunday night. Quietly. I held her hand until it was cold. Then I went home and stared at the ceiling all night. The funeral was Wednesday. I was back at my desk on Friday. No one sent flowers. No one even called. Alec emailed me that morning and said, "Welcome back. Let's hit the ground running. Q4's critical." And like an idiot, I did. The project we were working on was a product launch for a major client, biggest one we'd ever had. It was Alec's pet project. He kept saying it could put us on the map. We'd been building it for months, and the finish line was finally in sight. I poured everything into it. I missed Thanksgiving with my family to stay in Chicago and revise the proposal deck. I slept on my couch more than my bed. My personal life disappeared. I ignored texts from friends. I skipped therapy. I stopped answering my sister's calls. I worked, and then came the holiday party. It was at some high-rise venue downtown. Expensive view, open bar, white tablecloths, tiny hors d'oeuvres that looked better than they tasted. I didn't want to go. I'd started getting panic attacks in crowded places, and fake smiling through office chatter felt unbearable. But I went. I thought maybe it would help. Maybe I needed to be seen. Maybe I just wanted to prove I was still part of something. I wore a simple black dress and kept to myself most of the night. People said hi, complimented the project, told me I looked great. No one asked how I was really doing. I guess they didn't want to know. Then Alec got up to give his toast. Everyone gathered around, drinks in hand, waiting to be thanked or joked about. He started with the usual lines, shouting out departments, cracking bad jokes about Q3, calling someone the spreadsheet king. People laughed. It was fake, but it passed. Then he raised his glass a little higher and said something I'll never forget. He said, "And of course, let's give it up for Maya, who worked 60 hours a week, even when her mom died." Some people laughed. That polite, uncomfortable laugh people do when they don't know if something's a joke. A few looked at me, then quickly looked away. Alec just smiled, like he'd said something clever. I stood there holding a half glass of champagne. I don't even remember raising it. I just remember my chest tightening, like my ribs were collapsing inward. My vision blurred. It felt like I was underwater. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I walked to the coat check, where I had stashed my bag. Inside was the printed binder, final version of our project launch. I had brought it to give to Alec that night. Like a gift. Like an idiot. I walked back through the crowd. No one noticed at first. Alec was still holding court. Then people saw the binder in my hand. I went straight to the bar. The punch bowl was full, some ridiculous red concoction with fruit slices floating in it. I didn't hesitate. I dropped the binder in. Just let it fall. It hit with a splash. Pages floated and sank. The red soaked in instantly. Then I turned and walked out. No words. No drama. Just silence. The investors were scheduled to arrive at 7 p.m. I walked out at 6:55. I got on the blue line and rode home. I sat there, shaking. My dress was damp from the rain. I stared at the ads above the windows and tried not to fall apart. The next morning, I got an email from HR. The subject line was follow-up needed regarding holiday event behavior. I didn't open it. I never went back. My badge deactivated 2 days later. That was their answer. I've been job hunting ever since. It's hard without a reference. Hard to explain why I left. Sometimes I want to tell recruiters everything. Most times I just say, it wasn't a good fit anymore. But I don't regret it. Not a single second. After I left the party, I thought it was over. I assumed they'd just quietly remove me, sweep it under the rug, pretend I was never there. That's how companies usually handle things that make them look bad, erase it. But I was wrong. A few days later, I started getting texts from coworkers I hadn't heard from in months. Not the close ones, just the ones who kept their heads down, the quiet ones. They were short messages. Things like, "I'm sorry," and "You were right to leave." A few even said they wished they had done what I did. One person sent a photo of Alex standing at a Monday meeting, holding up the soaked, stained remains of the project binder. He was using it as a cautionary tale, saying things like, "This is what happens when emotions go unchecked in the workplace." He told the whole floor I had a breakdown. He called it a stress incident. He rewrote everything, made me into some unstable, fragile mess who cracked under pressure. He said I had created a hostile moment during an important company event. Apparently, that was the phrase they used in the internal memo. I didn't fight it. I didn't reply to HR. But I felt it. I felt it deep. Because I had held that place together during the worst months of my life. And now they were using my pain as a punchline again. Then things got worse. 1 week after I left, a recruiter I had been working with ghosted me. She had seemed excited, said I was perfect for a project management role at another tech firm. We had 2 great calls, then silence. When I followed up, she finally responded with one line. "Your last employer was not very supportive in their feedback." That hit hard. Alec had tanked my reference. That's when I knew this wasn't just about a party. He was making sure I didn't land on my feet. So I started digging. I reached out to one of the quieter engineers, someone I had helped get promoted earlier that year. He told me something I hadn't known. Alec had told upper management that I had been emotionally volatile since October. He said I was at risk of burnout and not handling stress well. He said I had made teammates uncomfortable. None of it was true. They had built a paper trail against me before the party even happened. And now it was being used to shut doors in my face. I spent the next month applying to jobs nonstop. I tried to leave it off my resume, but the gap raised more questions. I tried to explain the situation without going into detail. It didn't matter. Word gets around, especially when people like Alec know how to spin things. I started freelancing to pay bills. Short contracts. Nothing stable. I sold a few things. Canceled my trip to see my sister. The savings I'd built while working all those long hours drained faster than I expected. And all the while, Alec kept showing up on LinkedIn, posting tone-deaf leadership quotes, writing about resilience and the importance of empathy in management. He posted a picture of the investor dinner, smiling, holding a glass. Caption: "Success is built by those who stay the course, even through chaos." I started having trouble sleeping. My hands would go numb randomly. I didn't have healthcare anymore, so I couldn't afford to see a doctor. I knew it was stress, but knowing didn't help. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted to move on. I wanted to feel like my life wasn't broken. But when I saw Alec get promoted in March, VP of Strategic Development, that changed something. He didn't just survive what he did. He used it. He climbed over my grief and my silence and turned it into a step on his ladder. That's when I decided I wasn't done. I didn't plan it all at once. It started slow. Just small things. Quiet moves. First, I filed a request through Illinois' Employee Rights Office to get access to any formal complaints or HR reports filed under my name. It took weeks, but what came back stunned me. Alec had logged 2 internal incidents with HR before I even went to the holiday party. Both were vague. One said I reacted emotionally during a team call, no date, no context. The other said I had ignored multiple communication requests from leadership around early November. That was the week my mom had slipped into hospice. I had email records showing I responded to every request within hours. They were laying groundwork, planning to cut me loose. Maybe they didn't like the optics of someone grieving. Maybe Alec thought I was too risky to keep around. Either way, they'd made up their minds before I even stepped foot into that party. That should have broken me. But something else happened instead. I got very calm, focused. Like I'd been swimming against a current for months, and now I had finally touched the bottom. There was nowhere to go but up. So I started building a file of my own. Every document I had, every email, every Slack message, every project file I had backed up on my personal drive. I compiled it all. The long nights, the emails from Alec praising my grind, the weekend revisions I'd sent at 3 a.m., even the birthday card Alec had signed that said, "You carry this team." Literally. I wrote a full timeline of my work during my mom's illness. I matched it against meeting logs and project milestones. I had proof that I wasn't just functioning, I was outperforming half the team. Then I talked to a lawyer. Not a fancy one. Just a local employment attorney who worked out of a small office in Logan Square. I paid for a consultation using what was left of my savings. I expected her to skim it, say there was nothing I could do. Instead, she looked at me and said, "You know this could turn into something big, right?" She explained that if Alec's reports were false and used to hurt my ability to work elsewhere, that could qualify as defamation. And if I could prove I was pushed out based on grief-related bias, there might even be grounds for a discrimination case. She asked if anyone else at the company had talked to me about how I was treated. I gave her names. She said, "If one of them talks, this changes everything." Still, I didn't want to sue. Not yet. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to make it hurt. So I started contacting ex-employees, people who had left over the past year. I framed it carefully, said I was putting together a professional portfolio, and asked if anyone had ever had issues with Alec. I kept it vague. The responses were fast. One woman, Julia, from marketing, sent me a 3-paragraph message. She said Alec once told her not to apply for a promotion because she wasn't built for high-pressure work. She said he used to joke that people with anxiety shouldn't be in tech. She'd left 6 months before I did. Quietly, without a fuss. Another guy, Luis, from UX, said Alec had told HR he was underperforming the same week Luis took leave for his partner's cancer diagnosis. HR restructured him 2 weeks later. There was a pattern, and they thought no one would ever compare notes. Then came the twist I never expected. One of Alec's own team members, someone still working under him, sent me a message from a personal email. It was long, nervous in tone. They said they'd been reading my LinkedIn updates, watching the way I'd gone quiet, and started to feel something was off. They said Alec had started rewriting company history after I left, telling new hires that I was disruptive, that the holiday party incident was proof that some people just aren't built for scale. But the kicker was this. Alec had submitted a case study about the project I led, my project, to an industry award panel in February.
And won.
He used my work, removed my name, presented it as his success. There was a photo on the company site. Alec, holding the award, smiling under the headline, "Driving Innovation Through Adversity." That's when it all snapped into place. He didn't just bury me. He built a pedestal out of the pieces. He mocked me, rewrote me, erased me, and then took credit for what I built. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. After I found out Alec won an award using my work, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I just sat at my kitchen table with the lights off and my laptop open, staring at everything I'd collected. Every timestamp, every message, every draft I'd created with my name clearly on it. It wasn't just about the holiday party anymore. He had built his next promotion on the bones of my grief. And the company let him. I reached out to my lawyer again. She told me I had 2 options. We could send a cease and desist and file a formal defamation complaint, or I could let it go. I asked what would happen if I went public instead. She said she couldn't advise it, but she didn't tell me not to. So I made a choice. I spent 3 weeks writing. Not just a post. A full account. A timeline of events with links to proof. Screenshots of Alec's messages. Emails with his praise. Slack logs of me working on weekends. I attached PDFs of the proposal drafts, showing my name in the document history. I included the HR email that called me disruptive, dated before the party. I even linked to Alec's award and wrote a side-by-side comparison of the content he submitted and the original version I had authored. Then I reached out to the industry blog that had published Alec's award win. I asked if they'd be interested in a follow-up article about the real story behind the project. They didn't respond, so I published it myself. I wrote a long-form Medium post titled, "I was erased from my own work." Then my manager won an award for it. I didn't use the company name directly, but I included enough for people in the field to connect the dots. I ended the post with a single paragraph. Grief didn't make me weak. It made me invisible to people who only see what they can use. But if you're going to build your legacy on someone else's pain, make sure they stay silent. I didn't. I shared it on LinkedIn quietly. No hashtags. No tags. Just a plain caption. This is what really happened. Then I turned off my phone and waited. By the next morning, it had over 40,000 views. By the end of the week, it hit 400,000. People in the industry started commenting. People I'd never met. Executives. Recruiters. Journalists. A few said things like, "This is why people don't trust leadership." Some asked for interviews. Others started tagging the award foundation and asking for a retraction. Then it started happening fast. The company's LinkedIn page was flooded with comments. So was Alec's profile. Someone posted a copy of his award submission next to my Medium post with a caption, "Spot the difference." Then a former HR manager from my old company DM'd me. She said she had left 2 months after me. She'd seen what they did. Said they called it reputation protection. She offered to make a formal statement, anonymously if needed. My lawyer stepped in and sent a letter to the award committee, then to the company's legal team. It wasn't just about Alec now, it was about stolen work, defamation, and career sabotage. The legal threat made them squirm.
Fast.
The company responded by issuing a statement saying Alec had submitted inaccurate authorship details and was placed on leave pending investigation. 2 weeks later, they took the award announcement off their site. Quietly. Without explanation. Alec deleted his LinkedIn. I heard through someone still working there that he was asked to resign. No public firing. No apology. But he was gone. And me? A recruiter from a rival firm reached out. She'd read everything. said she respected how I stood up for myself. I started working there in June. Fully remote. Higher pay. Better people.
I still have panic attacks sometimes.
I still flinch when I hear certain words in meetings. But I have a team now that sees me, not just the results. I also got a call from the award foundation. They said they were deeply sorry. Offered to correct the record. I told them to take the whole article down instead. It never should have existed.
They did.
A few months later, I was invited to speak at a tech leadership conference. I almost didn't go, but I did. I stood in front of a room full of people in suits and said this: "Don't call it resilience when someone survives what you put them through." Then I walked off stage. That was the first time I really felt peace. Because Alec didn't just lose a job. He lost what he cared about most, his image. And I got my name back.